This public hearing is being held pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 7-191. I forget the subsection, might be B. And so we are having it. I would introduce my colleagues. To my left is Minority Leader, City Councilman Larry Deutsch. To my far left, to my immediate left is Councilperson Luis Cotto. And to my right is Councilman Pedro Segarra. We've invited the Chair of the Charter Revision Commission, Rich Waring, to sit up here tonight with us to answer any questions that might arise. I would just remind the viewing public and my colleagues that we have 15 days after tonight's public hearing in which to respond with comments, suggestions, edits, revisions to the Charter Revision Commission. I will be gathering that information, if you wouldn't mind emailing it to me or giving it to me in hard copy, to formally give a packet to our chairperson here, Mr. Waring. And after that point, they will come back with final recommendations that we'll have to approve or reject. There's no more amending after this 15-day window is passed. So if you do not like something, or you like something, or you have something new, you have 15 days to get it in. And that'll be the end of it. I'd also like to introduce our Majority Leader, Councilman Arjo Winch, who has just joined us. We now will go to public speaking. I would just ask my colleagues to save your questions to the end if you have any questions of any speakers. And the list is with Ms. Comer, I think, so it may not be that long.
It may not be anything. There's nobody there.
Okay. Carmen, if you'd like to start off, might as well. And we'll leave the sign-up sheet out as people may stumble in thinking it might have started at 6.
Mr. Councilman, I forgot your name.
I mean, Matt works, it's fine.
Sorry. I'm here because I'm truly concerned with the charter revision as it's going on in many of its findings. And most importantly, because I am concerned that we put as a commission for the Police Department of Hartford. New Haven has one, and it's my understanding that it's working very well. It would be an oversight commission, and it could bring to the police department that oversight that I think is badly needed. We keep hearing that crime has gone down, and yet last year was something like 181 shooting. Just 2 days ago, a man was stabbed in the corner of my house, and I don't see any results. I read the incident in the paper, I read the incident, or I watch the incident on TV, but I don't see an outcome by the police department, or what the plan is, or if they have a plan. So I want to suggest that by charter, the police department, which is responsible for the well-being of the residents of Hartford and to make sure that in fact we're safe, should work with people from maybe other interests or other expertise to come together and try and really resolve what is going on in our city. The other thing that I was looking was at the proportion of what they're being called five residents elected by communities and 8 at large. This scares me because we're going to have create little fiefdoms in the 5 districts that are going to be by district. It says, and I want to quote because I thought it was interesting, that the Charter Commission wants the 5 because they want representation from all of the neighborhoods in Hartford in the elected council. It says, while electing some members of council by district might enhance such division, the commission believes that having 8 members of council elected at large will mitigate the risk of there always being members of council who are free from neighborhood or other factional infighting and who may always take the broad city-wide. And the commission also believes that the neighborhoods are likely to ensure not only a more equitable allocation of city residents, a primary goal of our concurrent charter. but also better neighborhood services, given that more than 1/3 of the council will likely be viewed as our residents as having personal responsibility in that area. This bothers me because I've been in Hartford for a very long time, and a city that is, what, 17 square miles or something to that effect, how much can we divide it? You know, we have a lot of divisions now that we all know, divisions by race, division by age, division by language, and we're going to add another one in the council. I think that we are all responsible for the city, and caution the Charter Revision Commission to the dangers of such a composition. But like I said, I want to indulge, and I don't know what the process is. I thought I would start here in advocating for a commission for the police department. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to.
Thank you, Carmen. And also, just like to introduce to my next to Chairman Waring, Councilman Jim Boucher joined us, and I don't remember if I introduced Councilman Segarra. You know, the budget's passed now, so Pedro's tried to bask in anonymity after what he had to go through for 2 months, but no, I didn't say that. I said you just try to remain anonymous for a while. He is to my immediate right. Councilman Deutsch, you have a question for the speaker, or do you have comments?
I'm sorry, would you like the questions after each speaker or at the end of the
Well,
session?
if you'd like to ask a speaker a question, that'll be appropriate. If your question is more general, then there are no more speakers, so you might as well ask it.
I'd like to then, through you.
Yeah, do you want to direct your question to Carmen?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead. Yep.
Thank you, for you. Maybe just a little bit more about asking about the police commission. When you say it should be in charter, do you think we should define well the composition of the police commission, the review commission, that, you know, how, let's say, citizens are chosen and the powers it would have, maybe for subpoena or other things that haven't worked in the past, and you reckon?
I'm really thinking, basically, I think that the most needed, I've been working with the police department now for 10 years, is that we need a body that has oversight and that helps to think in terms of criminal justice skills, of criminal justice issues. How many policemen do we need? How many policemen do we really need? We have lowered the amount of residents, and when we had I think about 150,000 residents, it was like 500 that we had in the police department. So we need to have people from other fields within the criminal justice, I believe, and people who are really interested in what happens in Hartford, sit and speak and discuss what is the best plan for the safety of the residents of Hartford.
I would also add, Councilman Deutsch, to my colleague, that state statute would dictate much of the police commissioner powers. I think you'll find it in 7- I want to say the 300s. I don't know if that sounds right to Chairman Waring, but if you look in there, you'll see in other towns that have it what these commissions do, what the boards do. So there's plenty of guidance from state statute on that. Do you have another question? Yep, go ahead.
Would you have an opinion as to why other towns have commissions like this, but not Hartford, or?
I can't, the only thing I can think of is that they haven't taken the time, or we haven't taken the time to see if there's a better way. You know, what is usual, what is known is very comfortable. But I think that if we know that New Haven is having a good outcome from its commission, police commission, we should look into it. We can always learn, no?
Thank you. That's all for now, but perhaps we can go back to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Carmen.
And I'll be glad to accompany you to New Haven.
Good, thank you. Will you be staying for a while if other questions come up? Thank you. Okay.
I saw we had some new people step in. I don't know if they wanted to speak. Mr. Chairman, Sean Arena.
Good afternoon. I'm here as Sean Arena, citizen of Hartford. I live at 79 Morris Street. Hartford. I'm a condo owner and I own a business on Maple Avenue. Thank you for letting me take this time to speak to you. First of all, congratulations to the commission for putting this together. I know they put a lot of time into this in these past few months. I'm here to specifically speak on the enlargement of the city council. While it's an idea, possibly, I don't think at this time it's the idea for Hartford. We have mechanisms in place where we can have district council already, and that is through the town committees, specifically the Republican, Democrat, Working Family, where they can nominate one person from each district and then run their slates that way through their election, instead of having to go through having district councilmen. I know it says in here somewhere, I think $15,000 compensation. I think that we have in the next election cycle, the council's pay will be increased. Also, we have one aide for each councilman now. At that point, will we then have one aide for each councilman then? That to me is a problem where we have our state reps who have, I believe, 3 people for one aide. And I don't understand if we're going to be doing something like this. I think we need to take that into consideration. And I know that's possibly a separate issue, but I think it's something that needs to be spoken to. This past year, we went through you obviously, the council went through a very strenuous time putting your budget together, and to add more money to the taxpayer's side, I don't think this is the time for that. You know, you're talking about possibly $100,000 for 4 councilmen, and I believe $40,000 to $45,000 per aide. So another about $180,000 that would be adding on before benefits are put into it. So that's almost $300,000 right there a year that we'd have to consider adding on to the city's budget. And I do believe that district representation is an incredible idea, but we do have those mechanisms in place with the Democratic, Republican, Working Family, whatever other parties are in Hartford. They can nominate one person from each district, and this will take care of district representation.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Councilperson Cotto?
Chairman, Mr. Arena?
We'll call him Mr. Arena, as he is here as a private citizen.
I guess that's my question. Is this a position from the Democratic Town Committee?
I'm here as Sean Arena, private citizen. Okay. I'm not here as chairman of the Democratic Party.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you raise an interesting question. Certainly, I think at some point tonight, if we do have a chance, if we could have a 15-minute conversation, because I know, obviously, we're going to issue a report to the Charter Revision Commission, but I think they're here curious at what people's preliminary thoughts might be on some of their recommendations, and I think the district is a very big one. Councilperson Cotto?
Just to follow up, and I only ask because I would like, before this process is over, for the Democratic Town Committee, the Republican Town Committee to have an official position. If it's unanimously voted upon, it'd be good to get that. I think the 5 people, and maybe you can speak to this, maybe you can't. You're new as far as in your position in the Democratic Town Committee, but I know since the times of Mildred Torres, that the Democratic Town Committee has basically stuck by this process of voting 2 Latinos, 2 African Americans, or endorsing, and 2 white. And I'm just wondering, can you even begin to discuss the issues that you will go through as chairman of that committee if this passes and you can only endorse 5 at-large seats?
I cannot address that at this time because that has not been discussed in committee. The breakdown, you're right, that was the last convention that breakdown did happen. This will be brought up in town committee. An email did go out to town committee members asking them to be here today if they wanted to speak on this issue. Again, I'm here as a private citizen, a taxpayer from the city of Hartford. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there other questions for Mr. Arena? Councilman Deutsch?
Through you commented about the number of executive assistants at City Council as contrasted with those at the state level. what would you say as a citizen to the functions performed at the state level of legislative research and other kinds of assistance that can be provided to state reps and state senators that are not available in the city? Library research, for instance, legislative research, other kinds of counsel. Would we replace that in your mind? Would you recommend that we have more available in order to research past legislation and propose new legislation?
To discuss executive aids is a separate issue, but I do believe that the council has within its right to take an aid from that. What you have now, your basis of 9 council aides, and my feeling is that one of the council aides specifically should be working with Washington, specifically looking for grants and any money that can be brought into the city of Hartford. One council aide should be working with the state reps, the state senators, to find out all programs that will benefit the citizens of Hartford. If they're doing this now, that's wonderful, but I think that we should have specific people for these specific jobs. As far as the state reps and the state senators are concerned, I think that should this process continue to go where it's going, or if it doesn't, we need to, as a group, the council, the commission, whatever other bodies need to come together and to discuss what we need to do in the future. You know, we live in an incredible city, and I know the council went through quite a bit, like I said at the beginning, what you went through your budget process. And it's only going to be, I believe, more difficult in the next budget session. And I think we need to start putting these things in place so we can get to these points sooner than later.
So, through you, I'm thinking deeply about what you've said. If you think there should be some people on the Court of Common Council, the City Council, who specialize, for instance, in working with Washington, let's say one, or another writing grants, another one at the state level, would you bring that into council in parallel with the mayor's functions or instead of it?
I think the council should be doing this on their own. The council is a legislative body. You have the right to have the people that set in place to do these things for yourselves. And this is something you as a council can do on your own. We're getting off track of what the reason to be here is. I would very much enjoy sitting down and having this future discussion with you, and at any time you'd like. I came here to speak on this specific issue, and I believe I've spoken to what I wish I came to speak to.
And if I might interject here, Councilman Deutsch, if you look at I think it's page 12 of the draft report issued by the Charter Revision Commission, it talks specifically about allowing the powers of the council to hire. They actually add the words to hire by ordinance expert and professional staff or consultants to provide assistance. So I suppose the council, as the charter was proposed to amend it, could give itself any budget it wants as the budget making authority for these very purposes. So as Mr. Arena talked about, if you felt you needed a budget analyst, a DC legislative person, you could always appropriate the money for that. It's subject to veto, obviously, and override, but there are methods, and the Charter Revision Commission does speak to them. And I would like to get to public hearing too.
Mr. Arena, I just want to make sure that your issue isn't totally with the finances, and I'll point to, I guess I did hear in the Charter Revision Commission the concern of the upcoming raise, and their contention is that our salaries are not set by charter. So although we have to go through referendum to raise it, by ordinance we can lower our own salary by a simple ordinance. So the implication is being, obviously we know what 13 people times whatever it's going to be, 25 or something is going to be, so we can bring it back to 15.
325,000 at 13.
So we can bring it back to 15 or even less. If you were, would you still have your objection if there was consensus amongst, council people you talked that, yeah, if this goes through, we're going to bring that down so the city doesn't have to incur that extra amount?
The mechanisms are in place for the parties to have district council people already. And we have 6 districts, we have 6 district representation. Mechanisms are in place to do this. I was a city councilman many years ago in Norwalk. Our salary was $600 a year. And of course, that was many years ago, and it paid for maybe stamps. And we did not have legislative aids to help us. You know, this is the capital city, and we do need mechanisms that are in place because you are running, obviously, the capital city, and you do need the people to run behind you. I think at this point, adding more councilmen is not the answer to the council.
And just to clarify, the Charter Revision Commission actually, in the salary section of its revised charter, actually provides the city council does have the right to reduce its salary at any time if it so chooses. That would actually be in the charter.
I think that's nice to have in place, and as we all know, people can lower their salaries. I don't know too many people that have done that. You know, it's nice to be able to say that we can do this, but once it's human nature. Once you're used to a certain something, you're going to want to stay at that. You're not going to backtrack. And that's how things seem to go, whether it be Hartford or any other city in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena.
I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make an acknowledgement that this council body did this year, you know, reduce our salary because of the budget restraints. So we understand fully what it takes to make that happen.
Councilman Deutsch.
If I can ask you one other question, as a citizen, a private citizen, one of the items in Chapter 4, Section 4 is on succession to the office of mayor, and this was a discussion that did take place during the council, the charter reform deliberations, and the way it reads now is that if somehow the office is vacant, the council president serves until the next regularly scheduled municipal general election. There was some discussion about that. How do you feel as a citizen that it says the next regularly scheduled municipal general election as opposed to the next general election or by special election? What would you think of your feeling if there was some change that way?
At this point, I'm not here to speak on that issue. I would like, if there are other meetings, when they are, I'd be more than happy to speak on that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. All right. Is there anyone else here from the public to speak? Mr. Hagenbeck?
Hi, I'm Eddie Hagenbeck from 76th Avenue, West End. Just wasn't distributed to my West End. I know. I'm going to say that yesterday, to stray a little thing, because we had the West End Civic Association open meeting. We didn't really say very much about this, but I'll just boil it down. I think I've told him, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Two things, I don't want to see the council get any bigger, because I've worried about it become more than 9. I can't see that. I told people that, I'm sorry. I can't see it more than 9. And the pay, I don't know if we could raise it at this moment. That's another question. It might be in here, it's in here, I know that, because I read it. The pay, I don't know if we could raise the pay at this moment, because we'll do something with pay. I don't remember, but Matt, you can refresh my brain again. We'll do something with pay because it's we'll give some payback, or I forget again. But in here it says they wouldn't want to raise, right? They wouldn't want to raise their pay again, or something like that. And I wasn't too clear on that. And I just think it should be more, with this council, should be more looking over what the mayor does more, because I wasn't very happy with that part of it either. I think it should be more than mayor. We looking over more what any mayor does, so it doesn't get to be this criminal and what happens right now. It just really bothers me that what's happening right now. I hope we can change that part of it too. That we could oversee what happens with any mayor or mayors or whatever, or we could have some more flexibility. Look at it, because right now it's more mayor driven, and we don't have much to say about that. So I hope we could look at it some more with that, because it really bothers me right now. As our charter states right now, it really bothers me that we try to be more open with this council. We try to do that, but then we get into some legal days and in places where we don't know too much about. it, so we have to always have the council, John Rose here to talk about issues, and we always say, oops. So I hope that could be changed in this draft. Somehow it could be changed or so we're always on top of what's happening. I want to leave it with this. It's his budget was bothering me. People would know this. It's his budget was bothering me. We didn't have any much flexibility with that. So I hope in this version of it, somehow we can have more flexibility with this budget and how it's going out or however we do it. So we can say, oh, okay, you know. And I hope this gets more publicized before November also, because people are asking me, what's charter? They don't know what I said it's to change the charter. I don't know how else I could tell you that. That really bothers me. It's not out here enough. I don't know if much people read it in my neighborhood. I tried to bring it out. I tried to bring the copy out, but it's very complex. Some people ask me, can I said, tonight was the only meeting have your voice heard, so I'm here to say what I can, because it's very hard. It's got it on November's ballot, and people don't even know what yard we've been. I tried to read this. It's very complex. I really don't know. I will tell you, if things could be changed or something like that, it would make me much happier. The company, every time I come to I don't know if my voice is heard or whatever. I hope on the Tuesday draft, it can be heard some more or whatever.
Thank you, Eddie. And you raise a good point. It's a confusing thing to go through a whole document. One of the things you're allowed to do in referendums is to have what's called explanatory text, which kind of is a summary, a cliff note of what the questions are. And this council has the ability to recommend that for the referendum question. And maybe that's what we should consider, is to write that so people have like a cheat sheet, so to speak, of what the changes are.
And my neighbors don't want it any more than 9. Nine's enough to work with. I have enough to work with 9 people. I told Chicago guys, I'm sorry. 9's enough to work with. If you build it any more, then it's too much. Then this rule would have to get bigger. So I just don't. I just heard that too loud and clear from this commission. And that they were thinking about it. They weren't saying we want to build it more than 9. I just don't think we can hold more than 9. I don't know. And the pay, I don't know if we could hold it more, raise it anymore. I don't really know at this moment because it's.
Thank you, Eddie. Are there any more members from the public who are here to speak on the draft report? I would just say to my colleagues, just because if we can all be succinct, and I will keep us to that, because it's a public hearing, people might stumble in a little late, we let them speak, even though they're not here at 5:30 to sign up. If people want to, and no one is forced to, and could offer, and I'm going to limit us up to 3 minutes the way we do to other people, some of your preliminary thoughts and ideas. Maybe that would be a good time to let the public and Charter Revision Commission members who are here and the media who is here at least have an inkling of what people might be and where some of their ideas might be in the next 15 days. Obviously, you'll have a chance to put this in writing formally, so there's no reason to speak now, but if anyone felt like they could in 3 minutes succinctly discuss some ideas, maybe it would be a good forum to do it. Madam Majority Leader?
I can do it in less than 3 minutes. I agree with some of the comments made about cost of elections is of concern. Also, cost of increasing council members is definitely a concern. Going from 9 to 13, where would the other 4 people sit? If they were going to continue to be 1 aide for each council member, where would that, office be? What would we do about the dais? I think that we could accommodate 4 more people if we, move the town clerk and corporation council, to behind us. So I don't think that this area would be of great concern for renovation and expenses. But the cost of the elections alone, if you're talking about, staggered elections, some with 4-year terms, some with 2-year terms, we'll almost be having a council election every 2 years. So that's an expense for the registrar's office, and the expense of the staff itself. And also, I think that we have enough issues you know, with 9 council members, I'm just not even phantoming, you know, what it would be like having 13 council members to come to a consensus on some of the difficult things that we have to agree on, and evidently a vote by a majority. So those are just some preliminary things, real quickly, of concern.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Do any of my colleagues to my right have any preliminary thoughts they'd like to share? There's no, obviously no. Okay. Councilman Deutsch.
I wonder, through you, I wonder before doing that, if I can point out that there are, I see 2 members sitting out there who have been on the Charter Reform Commission too, and I would invite them, if they wish, to make any additional comments about their thought process or the outcome or any other reports. That would be helpful to hear any of their thoughts if they wish, not to put them on the spot.
They are well aware that they are welcome to speak publicly at any time they like, so. Do you have comments you wanted to share? Succinctly?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to ask of the other council members and the Charter Reform Commission members, and most of all the public, if they feel satisfied, for one thing, with the provision that I just read about if there's a succession, if they feel that the method of choosing any successor, if the mayor for some reason leaves, in any office for that matter, if it's rapid enough to wait for the next municipal general election, as it says, in terms of the process of democracy, and having through the electorate as promptly as possible any successor chosen, whether it be any of us up here or the mayor or anyone else where election is an issue, and whether there's been a possibility of having a more rapid, either a special election or the next general election of any kind, or by petition or whatnot. I'd also like to ask whether we should have in the city charter a formal process of initiation of a referendum by a certain number of signatures throughout the town or the city to put something on the next ballot. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, that some cities and towns have that capability, but we don't. If let's say we had 10,000 voters that wanted a certain issue put before the electorate, if they could do it by petition in that way. I guess that's one concern. Another concern, which again I would welcome discussion, is whether there should be various means of appointing people to charters and commissions other than at the initiation of the executive and with the approval of the legislative body, but not initiating any other commission appointments, which is, as you know, in other legislative bodies, a possibility. The nominations of things don't always come from a governor or a president or a mayor in terms of democracy. So I'd like to limit it to that for now and invite other comments on all that. Thank you.
I'd just say, just in terms of the power of initiative and those things, very common in a lot of charters, especially smaller towns in particular, but I do think other cities have it. You can certainly do that. Oftentimes it's the right to petition either an ordinance to be taken up by the legislative body or to petition to referendum an ordinance that is passed. There's 2 ways to approach it. The draft report does actually give the council appointment authority in the case of the Ethics Commission under the draft charter. Parts of it, the treasurer gets 1, the mayor gets 1, the council I think gets 3. The Freedom of Information Advisory Board would become a legislative body appointment, and I think those are the 2. Yes, in there. Okay.
But through you, of course, I'm speaking more generally of all
sure.
commissions and appointments.
Councilperson Cotto?
Thank you, through the chair. I guess I'll just say that this is reminiscent of, I believe, the whole process from beginning to end. There has been almost no public outcry for the need, and I think it speaks to Eddie's point where it's just confusing. A lot of it is, well, you know, what is this, you know? And I will say that regarding the commission appointment process, I like the provision that states that if it's not done in a timely manner, then they do it for you, you know. And because I think one entity that suffered in the move over from town manager to strong mayor has been has been commissions. You know, it used to be they report to the council and we would take their advice, the council would take the advice very strongly. The mayor, you know, could care less. I mean, so, hence you see it. Commissions are not, you know, some of them are defunct, some have, you know, and, you know, people do it for the little card, I guess. But I like that provision. Regarding the one major thing here, as stated in the original letter by Chairman Waring, is the composition of the Court of Common Council. As a minority representative, my concern obviously was not going beyond below 3. We do have 3 with 8 members at large, and 3 have to be minorities from the minority party. I don't know how pumped up I am, you know, considering now we got to fight with 10 others instead of 5 others. Like, you know, right now, depending on any vote, the minority caucus has to be addressed. The minority caucus has to be included in conversations. I think what you see in spaces with large amounts of council people is that you have a stronger, if anything, stronger mayor. And I was interested in this case that both the mayor and members of the council were pushing for district representation and enlarging the council. I'm not surprised that the mayor would do it, but I'm surprised that council members would do it who want to not make the mayor's position that much stronger. So I'm on the fence there. Other than that, it's unfortunate because we have to get, you know, we have to get the word out, because unfortunately, I think what's going to happen when this is put up to, you know, vote, is people are going to vote for things they don't know about. They're going to vote because they're a town committee person that says, you know, yeah, just press yes, just press yes. And the same has been said with people regarding our salaries. You know, it passed by 51% or something, you know, and there was confusion over the wording. So people came away thinking, oh my God, what happened? And but it passed. So that's my fear, that we're going to get to a point where it is going to be up for vote, and people are going to vote on things that, you know, and it's going to go through the same machine.
Thank you. And it's really incumbent when you have all the civic-minded people in the audience and up here to talk to neighbors, to talk to people, and if they have questions, and do your best to explain it. I can just tell you briefly some of the things that were not addressed that I would look at is I still go back in my mind about the best way to appoint the corporation council. I'm of mind that it may be better if the city council makes that appointment of that one position. I think I would just leave it at that. I think that the mayor should have the right to appeals, but I do not know that on freedom of information issues, the mayor should have the sole right of appeal. I think he should have to get majority vote of the city council on that one matter. And a third recommendation I was going to make is the budget fiasco we had, the Armageddon provision, which forced the city council to either have a 9 to 10 mil tax increase or a 4 mil tax increase when a lot of us wanted to go much lower. The city's budget requires us, as we all know, to go back to last year's budget. And only in politics and in government do you base what you spend on what you spent last year. Every other household in the world bases it on the revenue they have coming in, and that's how the budget should be adopted. We should revert to last year's mill rate or last year's actual revenue, not last year's expenditures. It's a backwards way, and no household in the country works that way. And so government should not work that way either. Those are just 3 things that I have very quickly that I'll be pushing my recommendations in the next 15 days. Councilman Boucher?
Thank you. And I also would like to thank the Charter Revision Commission, chairperson and members for the amount of time that you spent going through this. And, you know, I think one of the things that City Council did do early on was to try to give some view on what would be the major items for review. And I think that was, you know, a specific focus that the Charter Commission continued to take, but at the same time, I think really provided significant opportunity for a lot of public input. And some people took advantage of that and others did not. And I just want to express my appreciation for the work of the commission. You know, I think Councilman Ritter sort of asked for some of our views, and if this is an opportunity to give some further reflection on that in a timely manner. I know that the commission members probably agonized mostly when they looked at key issues over the terms of the election of council members. And I would say, at least at this point, I'm still listening to what the public has to say about the extension of districts to the composition of council members. Right now, I think I generally favor the arguments for the extension of additional council members. At the same time, I'm still weighing the pros and cons, and then listening to, as people testified here today, to other arguments. I think some of the other items that are before us in terms of anywhere from the Board of Education, with the mayor serving as a non-voting ex officio member of the board. I think that's a good step. I was one that supported the mayor to be chair of the Board of Education, and I think there were some positive outcomes actually relative to that, but at the same time acknowledging the checks and balances. I would support this particular item around the Board of Education and the mayor's role. Without going through the rest of the items in here, I would say that a couple areas that I know Councilman Ritter mentioned, 3 areas that he might want to take a look at. One of the areas, if we do take a look at, say, the budget, and the mill rate, I'd be open to that. I just want to be understanding. I know in other states, other folks have done, sort of almost what would be conceived or perceived of as, tax resolutions that then created a certain level of inflexibility to the budget. And I think presently what we have in front of us doesn't give us the best option we would like. If we do look at the mill rate issue, I'd like to also see if there's potential look at the revenue enhancement ability of the council also, so that we're not forced into the one corner or the other corner. I think at the end of the day, we ended up coming to a compromise on the budget based on some revenue enhancements that came in at the last minute. I think we ought to have that ability too, to have that as part of our consideration. So if we were able to figure out something that looked at that option too, I'd be more open to the mill rate issue. A couple other just brief items, and again, I think I was one that supported trying to keep the focus to a couple of key things, so I don't necessarily at this point want to open it up further than maybe a few of the items we mentioned. But I do think there were a couple things that came to us towards the in later weeks that we might take another look at. One of them is relative to actually the format of resolutions, to assure that they are clearly defined as more than advisory. And just as we have in the Charter, Chapter 4, Section 7, so the procedure for enacting ordinances with clarification for what's the format for ordinances. I almost wonder if we need to have a little more specific language about, form of resolution, and to the extent that we acknowledge that those kinds of actions, which are most of our actions, are binding as they're voted on and supported. Another area that I think came to us recently had to do with a lot of the discussion around the quarterly reports that we get, quarterly finance reports that we get. And I think the charter enabled us to, assure that we were using, the power we have as council. I know Councilman Segura, I think, offered us a lot of opportunity to focus on that particular issue, and we continue to focus on that issue, getting those regular reports. We do know that there are some cities that have, as part of their internal audit procedures, an annual independent audit that tends to come up around the third quarter of the year. That let's say before the budget comes out, that sometimes their audit commissions will give a set of recommendations relative to what their work has been on, the kind of internal audits that they've been doing over the years, but then they provide an independent set of recommendations to the city. And these are a couple items that I think, given the budget situation that we were in and things that happened in recent weeks, literally, about what we might need in terms of additional sort of latitude and power as a council are a couple things that I might also, as Councilman Ritter said, he might put forward a few additional ideas. I might try to put those ideas forward also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Boucher. And I was going to, Councilman Cigar? Yep.
I just really wanted to thank Chairman Waring and the members of the commission. I know that they did work very hard. I was at several of their meetings and saw a couple more on TV. And behind each and every proposed change to the charter provisions, there is logic and reason that was adopted by the majority of those members. Although difficult to read and sometimes difficult for some to understand, there's a lot of hard work that went into this document. For me personally, what the charter revision process does for me personally as a legislator is to try to get me to focus on my particular place within the greater scheme of things. And I really hope that as we go through this process that we can also have sort of a renaissance of politics in Hartford. This document, as proposed, is really not in the greater scheme of things that much different from the document that we have. What our Constitution, which is over 200 years, about 200 years, has served us well for all that period of time. And I think that what that goes to tell you is that the document is only as good as the people that compose this document, because this document is composed of many people, of many individuals. And what I would like to see in the future is I would like to feel challenged by the community. I would like to have to justify a reason for my existence and for my participation on council. Why is it that I am worthy to be here making decisions for the citizens of the city and not someone else? Why shouldn't someone else have my seat? And I say that because I think that we've become not so much experienced in what the charter means. We've become very experienced in politicking and what the world of politics is. And sometimes I'm resigned to the fact that whatever happens on council is just a result of democracy. But sometimes I do get confused and think that it's the result of other processes that don't necessarily suit the best interest of our citizens. So I hope that we go through a renaissance at the same time that we work on a document, that hopefully we can have some process that impacts people. And I was really thrilled with the last presidential election because I saw a lot of new ideas having to do with transparency, about responsibility, of what it means to hold public office, that you should hold public office because you see the good that can come from bringing your ideas and your feelings and your expressions and responsibility, and not have this be about me or what can happen for me or what can happen for my family or what can happen for my friends. That's not in here. This can only prevent us from running afoul of the law and ending up in places that we don't want to be. But really, that linking this document to really more raw principles of democracy that can lift us from being one of the poorest cities in the nation. And I often wonder really I grew up in this city, and when I first got here and all along, I've always been asking myself that question: what makes this city, quote, a poor city? And you get to the point where you realize that it's just more than economics. And I hope that we can use the rest of our terms to really use more of the leadership type of role that we have, because we're supposed to be leaders. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that is not in here that really should be a lot of common sense and a lot of commitment to the people that we're supposed to serve. And no one, you know, you really have to look for those gap fillers. And unfortunately, I think that we're in a city where we don't get to be council people as a neatly packaged item, that people have different experiences and different contributions to make. But I really do think that we're really in need of a renaissance, and we really need to catch up to other movements that have happened in this country to bring us further along to do hopefully some public good. Thank you.
And Councilman, before we conclude, is there anybody here who would like to finally address? So just no more public comment? Then this, Councilman Deutsch, can I ask what it's about? Is it a comment?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, to try to elicit other comments, and first is to draw positive attention to aspects of the letter that Chairman Waring wrote to all of us, where he said, and I think it's very important, this revision focus on establishing the current form of government with clearly delineated executives and a council with unambiguous legislative and oversight functions. And he said the commission sought to focus on refining those well understood legislative and executive prerogatives. Now, if I can just read just one other short paragraph, because I think some people are uncertain whether this charter revision does enough to correct mistakes from the past period, and I mean it in this way. If you look, Chapter 4, Section 7, which is on page 16 of this revision text, I'll just read a sentence of it, or two. If the council shall pass the proposed ordinance or resolution by an affirmative vote, then basically it's returned to the mayor, ordinance or resolution, and it shall become effective without the mayor's approval after a certain period. If the mayor does not return the proposed ordinance or resolution within the time required, it shall become effective without the mayor's approval. Now, I read that sentence because there seems to have been some confusion, which I think Councilman Sagata and some of us have referred to, confusion in recent months and years about whether an ordinance or resolution is effective if it's not vetoed. Am I correct? That if we pass an ordinance or resolution, should we assume that it's legal and effective and will be obeyed? Or shall we think about some instances where many of us on council have said that certain resolutions have not been adhered to by the executive? Many of them, am I correct? And so I wonder if there's opinion that this charter revision is clear enough on adherence to resolutions and ordinances and what the sanction for the executive is, or the correction, if those resolutions are not adhered to as the council passed them. I'd like opinion as to whether we have solved what appears to be a problem that way in terms of referring to council resolutions as merely advisory.
Thank you, Councilman Deutsch. I would like to also just echo, because I figured I would save it to the end, to thank the Charter Revision Commission and the men and women who spent a lot of time putting this together, and we will review it, and after July 4th, after everyone has a nice weekend, hopefully, we will give you our comments as a full body, and you guys are free to do whatever you want with those, as you well know, and then we'll have your final document, but I'm sure there'll be a good give and take, as everybody on that commission, like up here, is people who love Hartford and care much about the city. So, are there any more comments from any of my colleagues? Thank the public for coming tonight. One last chance, if anything you want to get in, but it looks like we've exhausted our public comment tonight. Thank you. This meeting's adjourned. Thanks.